Hello, if you're joining here, there's no one on yet. I just decided to do this impromptu. It's part of my new, like, sort of ask a professional photographer questions. Um, anyway, I'm here to answer all your questions about photography. If you have any questions about gear, uh, any questions you might have. I'm also going to start by putting a link in the comment section to my updated Ask Mott section. I've got my Vietnam workshop I just launched. It's going to have 6 participants only. That's for March. I also have pre-registration open for my Hue workshop that's going to take place in late November, early December next year. I've also got private and global workshops, one-day, multi-day, customizable workshops. Anyway, I'm just getting started here. So if you're here, I hope you came here not just to hear me talk, but to ask me a question. This is totally impromptu. I just do this sometimes when I have some free time and I'm in the mood to answer some questions. So ask me your questions here. For those of you just joining right now, I see a couple of people popping on. I just promoted this sort of last minute. Hi, Deborah. Good to see you. Ask me your questions here. I'm going to put a link to my new online photography. Well, not new. I updated my photography website. I'm doing some SEO stuff. So it's askmott.com, but I've got my updated workshops, updated blog on there. I think I just put the link in correctly. Check that out. If you're not part of my newsletter, please just go to the bottom, put your email in. I'm not going to bug you with constant newsletters. One newsletter per month. So maybe two if I have something special to promote. So go to askmott.com, go to the bottom and just hit subscribe and join my newsletter, and you get discounts, up-to-date info and news about my workshop. I've got new blogs coming out. Sometimes I do written blogs. Sometimes I do episodes on YouTube, but I also have photos to share that I can't share them properly on YouTube. So I put the galleries in there as well. So I've updated askmott.com. I've added a bunch of new content on there. I want that to be like my platform for photography education. So there's coaching on there, there's long-term mentorship on there, there's workshops on there. For anyone who's interested in the March workshop, check that out. March workshop in Northern Vietnam. It's going to be great. We're going to Topaz Eco Lodge this time. It's a really cool resort. We've upgraded a bit. Good morning, Matt. All right, I got people joining in on here. Matt, you going to have any photography questions for me, or are we just going to talk cycling here? So this is something I'm trying out, this sort of impromptu last minute YouTube photography questions. So if you have any photography questions, any gear, this is me 333. I like your name 333. I don't know who this is me 333 is, but hi, introduce yourself, ask me questions. Wow, I just did this like totally last minute. I didn't promote or anything, and I got people popping on. This is my home. It's a bit messy. It's so impromptu that I didn't even clean up at all. I've got my coffee over to my left. My dog's probably floating in and out of the background. You can't see my cameras there. Uh, yeah, okay. So Deborah's starting with a question. Great question to start with. Could you talk a little bit about your approach strangers for street photography for a portrait? Well, yeah, sure. If I'm going to photograph someone on the street to take their portrait, first I want to write. I'm going to read someone's body language, and that's when I'm going to approach someone. Well, let me backtrack. First, I'm going to see if it's someone interesting, and if it's interesting light, and if it's worth it to approach somebody. And if it is, then I will try to calculate sort of what my shot is ahead of time before I actually bother them. You know, what lens I'm going to use, what's the backdrop, what kind of pose I want to do. I think this through so that I'm not fumbling around in the moment and saying like, "Oh, hey, I'm interested in you," but then you're thinking about your shop, or you're trying to talk to them. It's tough to do both at the same time. It's tough to talk and think at the same time. So let's say if I just found someone in the streets of Hanoi, I might say, "Oh, that's interesting. And some nice light there. This person's let's say they're a craftsman on the street doing some work, like a blacksmith or something like that. We get a lot of craftsmen here." And I might say, "Hey, can I trouble you for just a little bit? It might take me about 5 minutes. Can I get a portrait or two?" And then I sort of grow into it. I read their body language. I show them pictures. Look at the back of my screen. Hey, check that out. What do you think about this? I read people's language just like you do in everyday life. It's the same thing. And I shoot. And if they're really comfortable with me, I keep shooting. I keep shooting and I grow in. I try not to give up until I've got a shot that I'm happy with. And a shot that I'm happy with is going to have all the things firing. My old professor used to say this about taking portraits. Like, everything better work perfectly, right? Because you've planned it. You can control the light. You can control the posture. You can control what subject you pick. So I want everything to be perfect. So don't quite walk away. If someone's really uncomfortable and I've got a great light and the background's nice and the color's nice, but their posture's bad or their expression's bad, I wait. I'm patient. I don't give up until I get what I want. I've got this weird side light because normally I'm doing my YouTube over here. So I've got this funky side light today. Let me tune this down just a little bit here, guys. Might be a little bit overly overly side lit today. It's just a light off camera. So that's kind of how I approach street photography portraits. Great question, Deborah. Keep them coming. You guys, also just a reminder, if anyone's not, Sue, hey Sue, hi from Minnesota, Sue, good to see you. Guys, if you have any questions, nothing's off the table, business, gear, general, technical questions, things like that. I'm not a great technical person, but you can ask me. I can see what I can do. Okay, Armando asked me, hi Armando, nice to meet you here. What would you say are the lenses you should have with a rangefinder besides a 50? There's no lens. I'm never one to say you should have this, this, and this, and this. I think you should have the lenses that fit your style of photography and what you're trying to capture. So, for me, most of the time, I shot an entire year of my career doing New York Times assignments, and this was a lot of assignments with a 35 millimeter. Now I prefer to have a 35, a 50, a 75, and I also have a 100 macro, but those are all for different things. I think, I think a general rule is having something relatively wide, but not overly wide because I just don't like overly wide. And then nothing too close to that. So if you get a 28, maybe you don't need a 35. You might want to go a 28 and a 50 and a 90, or you might want to go a 35, a 75, and then maybe you get like a 135 or something like that, depending on what you're shooting. Some people doing street never need a 135, never need a 90, never need a 75. For my commercial work, my commercial work, I barely use my 35 because I need a lot of these like compressed shots. So I shoot often with most of my shots with my commercial work are with a 75, and I shoot often with a 50. Matt's asking me, I want to start my photography venture, not sure what gear to buy. I know what my iPhone can do. Yeah, I think that's a great question, Matt. I think it depends on what exactly you want to shoot in your photography. If you want to photograph just street photography, then having a fixed lens is going to be fine. If you want to photograph wildlife, then yeah, you're probably going to need a zoom lens. Although someone like me, I photograph wildlife, but I photograph stories about wildlife so I can get close to people. So I shoot all that with a 50. But when I go to shoot wildlife stories, people look at me like I'm crazy because I have a fixed 35 and a fixed 50 on me. So, I would say a camera that you're comfortable, that you can grow into if you know yourself and you can say, well, hey, I'm going to get into this. I know I'm going to really get into this. The same with buying bikes, right? If I'm not going to buy a $10,000 bike if I'm not going to take it serious. Don't do that in the beginning. Make sure that you're really going to be into it. Make sure that something you can grow into as well. So you can't go wrong with a Fuji, little Fuji X100. Those are great cameras. You don't need the latest and greatest. This, if you like street photography, this is a great camera. If you care more about design, and you think you're really going to get into this and you want to grow into more lenses and you have a budget, then yeah, go for a Leica. I'm a big Leica guy. I have an M10. I've had different M10s throughout my entire career, and I love them. But I can justify the cost because I can also use those cameras to make money. Not everybody can, and it's getting harder and harder to do that. So, excuse me, that my air purifier in Hanoi, I just bought like 3 brand new ones, and they are intense. They're blinking red because the air quality, as you can see, it actually looks like decent outside, but it's just the exposure is not great because it's a webcam, but it's bad. But I'm gonna slide off for 1 sec. Don't go anywhere. Okay, I'm back. That air purifier, it's a really good one. It's a Conway, but Conway? Anyway, it's very loud. So Matt, I would say buy something you're comfortable within your budget. Can't go wrong with any of the big names: Fuji, Sony, Nikon. Really, what did I miss? Canon. Can't go wrong with any of those cameras. They all make great cameras. None of them are going to make you a better photographer. Hard work and going out there and shooting is going to make you a better photographer. Next question. Let's see. Oh, hey Brian. Any chance you're doing a podcast style with YouTube photographers you respect? Yeah, it's a great idea. Brian, I think I want to do a podcast style. I've been just lazy about, to be completely honest, I've been lazy about figuring out how to interview people on YouTube, people that aren't maybe necessarily technically savvy or do this stuff often, how to be able to get good audio from them and interview them. I think I might do it as a live stream. I don't know. Maybe that could cause problems, or maybe I'll just record it as a live conversation on YouTube, share it on YouTube, and then if I can put it into a podcast, yes. But my thing won't just be photographers that I'm interested in, that I admire, but that will be part of it. I want people in the photo business. I think it's cool to get to know people. Like the first guy I keep saying I'm going to do this, I've been putting off for a while, but he's an art director. His name's Tim McGuire. He's an art director, creative director for Pottery Barn. I think even your amateur photographer, you guys let me know, would be interested in hearing his perspective, what it takes to be hired by someone like him, what he looks for photographers, seeing the other side of things. I want to talk to retouchers. I want to talk to lighting assistants. I want to talk to interview my assistant and see what he has to say about me. You can understand the real me and how I have to work with. But all sorts of different people in the industry, editors, art buyers, gallery owners, retouchers, fellow photographers, sure, cinematographers. I think that would be kind of cool. It's something I'm really interested in doing, and I'm just figuring out the right technical way to do it so that I know me. I want to be able to like, okay, tomorrow I want to do this. Can we do it? And go for it. So I'm going to start with Tim, and that's coming up very soon. I'm just figuring out what software I'm going to use, OBS or what. I don't think I want to do a ton of editing with it just because of the way my life is and traveling a lot. I want it to just be pretty raw and pretty just open conversation, but we'll see. Chris, great, ask me a question. Chris J, hi, nice to meet you here. Thanks for asking a question. What's your mental checklist for getting exposure settings right? Oh, well, mental checklist is more like I kind of go out every time before I leave the house. I have an idea of what time I'm shooting. So first thing in the morning, I set my ISO. I know it's kind of dark before sunrise. So I'm going to set my ISO to something a little bit high, something uncomfortable what my camera can handle. So 1600, 3200. And I know I shoot wide open off it at 1.4 and I have fast glass. So I'm just going to go out there and trust my meter on my rangefinder. And then if I have of shooting commercial work, yeah, I'm not a big like histograms person and all that. When I shoot commercial work, I have people telling me, like they've got a screen tethered and like just a little high, a little overexposed, or highlights are peeking there. And so I trust my eye, although that's getting worse. I'm going to start wearing glasses. I got to start wearing reading glasses. So I've always trusted my eyes for focus. I trust my eye for exposure. I know my exposure as well. I use manual. I shoot everything in manual. So I know my exposure is pretty well. And I trust my meter on my rangefinder, and then I just trust the screen as much as I can. So nothing too crazy. I don't have any secrets about exposure. I mean, you can really just look at it and check it. But great question. All right, Matt, thank you for the recommendation for Prism for live stream. Maybe I'll try that. Yeah, you guys, let me know how. I mean, the quality. I don't know how this is with just my webcam here. I might hook up my other camera if I do more live streams. This was very impromptu, so just sort of see how it goes like this. Let's see. All right, Bleach Pipe. I better read these to myself first because I sometimes have friends that will jump in and maybe say something silly and I'll read it out loud. How can I be extremely wealthy with photography using the least amount of effort? I don't know, man. I do a ton of effort. I mean, my YouTube channel is like a tiny part of my photography revenue, and it takes a ton of work and a lot of time. So I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. I highly recommend putting in the most effort as you possibly can. I would just say be efficient. I would say right now, one of the things that I use right now, I know you're not asking this, but the thing that I use for efficiency right now is I use OpenAI. It's helping me with my SEO at ChatGPT. I'm using it for, answering questions I have about silly things, back end stuff. Like right now, January is when I usually do the back end of my website. On that note, guys, just a good segue to go check out ASKMOTT.com. If you're watching here, helps me support this channel. Not have to pay anything. Just subscribe to my newsletter. I don't send out a ton. AskMott.com. Scroll down to the bottom. Hit subscribe to the newsletter, and you'll be added to my list. And you'll get information about like my new workshop coming out. I've got a workshop in March. 2 participants signed up the day it was released. I haven't released it publicly yet, but I'm releasing it here and to my members of my YouTube channel. If you're not a member, that's just hit join. It's $4.99 a month. You get early access. I'm going to do more live streams, stuff like this in the new year. But if you're interested in coming to Vietnam for a once in a lifetime luxury, it's a luxury workshop. We're staying at nice places. We're going to eat good food. We're going to have good local food, but it's an intimate experience. Check that out. It's from March 17th to the 22nd. That's coming up a couple months. So you can pay the deposit now. It's all at AskMott.com at our workshops. If you're interested in a private workshop with me, I do offer custom packages anywhere in the world. Blah, blah, blah. I'm here to answer questions, but I don't want to promote too much. But go to AskMott.com. Check that all out. I just revamped the website. Needs a little bit of work, but I just revamped a lot of things. SEO, by the way, for your website, not fun. I'm using a plugin right now, and it's eating up like 2 weeks of my time nonstop, changing pages, messing up links, all that kind of stuff. If you're going to do a website, do it right the first time. So sorry I didn't answer your question on how to be extremely wealthy. Danny's here. All right, Danny was just in my Northern Vietnam photography workshop, the December edition. We had a great time. So ask Danny if you want to know what the workshop's like. We had some coconut coffee. Danny ate what he could. He had some issues here with the food, but overall, great workshop. And you can ask him right there. Good to see you, Danny. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I would like to see a video where I get to know the team of Mott visuals and there's take on their life and photography. Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one of these days I'll probably interview my wife on this channel for you can listen to her talk about. I don't know if I'd like that. Maybe she'll say something. You listen to her talk about what it's like to be a producer, costing, quoting. My wife, actually, anyone that's interested in the business side of photography, my wife has classes through my online store where she helps with quoting and business consulting and back end stuff. Like, I hate that stuff. I wouldn't do commercial photography if it wasn't for my wife. I would have stopped doing that a long time ago. And because she deals with all the stuff that I don't want to deal with, back end, quote, front end, production, post production. It's a lot of work. Commercial photography is it's a lot more money, but it's a ton of work. She deals with everything, and my team deals with everything. It makes my life a lot easier. Let's see. Linda asked a question here. I'm super inspired by so many photographers in the work. There are many styles I love. How do I find my own style voice ultimately? I know just shooting is part of it. No, I think Linda, to find your own style and looking at other photographers for inspiration is a nice combination. But it's not just shooting. It's shooting with purpose, And not to plug my mentorship, but that's what I do in my mentorship. I help people find a purpose in their photography. So that's finding a project. If you don't want to do the membership with me for whatever reason, find a project, and that project will force you into good habits. It's just like training. If you train for an event, right? Like Matt's on here, we're both like bigger dudes training for triathlons, but if I train without purpose, without a plan, right? I might have a goal that I want to do the event. You might have a goal for an exhibition, but if you just go out and shoot by exercise, I'm never going to get any better. You're going to plateau pretty quickly. So having a purpose in your photography can come with a project, and that project could just be documenting anyone that you know, an artist, a friend, someone that does something visually interesting that you're curious about. Start with that. Don't make it too complicated. Don't make it too like far off in a far off land or hard to get. Document someone, shadow them, start a project. Or if that seems overwhelming to you, then just find a topic, love or passion or whatever, weather, and just grow into it. Shoot, discipline yourself. Shoot. You'll find your story through your curiosity and through repetition. Yeah, I'd say it is hard to crack the code. Yeah, good question. Oh, Danny, thank you for saying that. What is coconut coffee? Yeah, it is delicious. If you're interested, if you go to Vietnam, I have on my blog at AskMoTT, I do have a whole blog about Hanoi, things to do in Hanoi. It's just a free blog for people that come here, what to shoot, what to drink. Coconut coffee is like this iced. It's like I don't know how to describe it. My wife's way better at this stuff, but it's delicious. Very sweet. But it's like an iced drink they make at a lot of cafes. Either coconut coffee, egg coffee, which sounds gross, but it's really delicious. Let's see what other questions here. Yeah, I would also love to know what you guys would like to see more of on my website, askmott.com. I'm doing gear reviews. I'm kind of venturing into travel stuff. What you'd like to see more here on YouTube. It's interesting. When I review a camera, I get a ton of views. I reviewed the Fuji X106 because I used it, but I don't review stuff off a spec. I review it if I'm interested in it or I use it. So I try to do behind the scenes stuff. I try to do that's hard on some shoots. I try to do work where I'm doing this, sharing work while I'm on an assignment, and that seems to go well. But I don't get that many views, not much traction with that. But I like to do it, and people seem to like it. So after this, I think I'm going to record something. I like to vent a little bit about some of the bad stuff you see on YouTube. I like to talk about that stuff, and people think, oh, you're talking bad about other YouTubers because you're jealous. I'm not jealous. My passion is photography. My second passion is teaching photography. I like doing both a lot. I think I'm decent at both of them. And so I just think looking at bad photography, believing bad photography is good is bad for your growth as a photographer. So I like to encourage that. So I'm going to do a whole episode, my yearly sort of, not pointing fingers, but just saying like maybe here's some photographers to look at. These are some things to be aware of in your photography. More questions. Good question. Armando asked, which cameras do most of you see in your workshop that people use? A mix. I definitely get a lot of Leica users, but we're not Leica snobs. If someone shows up with a Fuji or a Sony, we don't look the other way. We're we're not like that. No, I get a mix. I do get a ton of Leica people. My channel, I would say like 80% Leica people, a decent amount of Fuji people, but I'm not a Leica snob. My students and my community is not like a snob. So if you want to bring a Sony, Bring a Canon. I use Sony for my commercial work. I use Fuji now as well for some fun stuff. So it's a mix. But if you're asking for numbers, I would say probably yes. 75% of my workshops are probably Leica users. Anything from the Q to the M10 to the Danny had the SL3 and then recently got an M11. Chris asked a question here. Oh, you guys, this is great. I didn't thought like just doing an impromptu live thing would be going so well with so many questions. I did this years ago and it was so hard to get traction. Maybe I have more members now. I guess I do. Knowing what you know, what skill do you think photographers should sharpen first? What would you have done differently? That's a good question. Well, let me start with what skills to sharpen first. Is it's not a skill that's easy to sharpen. It's not a blade that's easy to sharpen. I would say, the desire to make it as a photographer is one of the hardest things out there to do. I see so many of my friends fail because what they're not sharpening is, well, one, they're not going out and getting enough reps. So when they're not told what to do, they're not doing anything. So photography is not the kind of job, or even just working for yourself is not the kind of job that if you're not good at creating a day, an honest day's worth of work on your own, planning that without someone telling you what to do, you're probably not going to make it in photography. I mean, like, I love that. I don't like anyone else telling me what to do. So this is the perfect job for me. But if you wake up and you don't know what to do with yourself, then that's where I see a lot of photographers get in trouble. Because for me, like most people don't think of this kind of stuff, but I didn't start with a staff. I have a staff of 6 people right now. Most photographers don't have a staff, but I still do my back end of my website because I know how to do that. My staff's not great at that kind of stuff. I know what I want for that. So every year I've got 4 different photography websites. I won't go through them all, but different sites for different businesses. And I got to do all the back end. I got to update the photos, check out the keywords, check out the SEO titles, make sure links aren't broken, index stuff on Google, all that stuff that's not sexy to do. I do that when I'm not shooting. Or early on in my career, when I wasn't shooting, I was promoting myself and networking. When I wasn't shooting or promoting and networking, I was trying new skills, new lighting skills, working on projects. So, I was working more than someone would than a 9 to 5. And that's the way you kind of have to look at it. It's like when I see friends that open up a new restaurant and they're the chef and they're out of the kitchen after a month, probably going to fail because they didn't really get back if it's their first restaurant. Because you can't be hanging out in the front of the house drinking. You got to be in the back doing work, prepping, learning new things. I don't know why I compare things to chefs. I know nothing about cooking, but I like the comparison. I think there's a lot of parallels. But yeah, man. I mean, sorry, I'm going pretty deep here, but I'd say it's the legwork. It's everything. Go into your branding, go into your website, and then get the work that you need to sell yourself. Look at the work out there that you said, like, okay, that's the kind of work I want to be doing. Who's doing it, and how are they getting that work, and mimic that, and then become your own self and your own style as a photographer, and then learn how to sell that. But you should be putting in honest, full days. So many of my friends used to call them coffee shop photographers. They'd hang out at the coffee shop and just bullshit and complain about other photographers like me. I'm sure because like, oh, he's getting all the work. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting the work not because I'm better. I'm never better, man. I was never better than anyone else in my photography. I was always one of the worst, but I definitely worked harder than everyone else. So it's a lame sort of piece of advice, but working harder, that's paid off for me. That's the way I do shit. Crap. Let's see. I know I posted live on IG. I should have posted live on some other places too. JW asks, thanks, Chris. I mean, follow-up questions you can ask me. I love talking about that kind of stuff, but I'm kind of I give pretty raw advice. There's no magic like shortcut. I often find photographers' Instagrams are not always full with the same are often full with the same type of photos. Not much diversity. Are photographers really that super niche? What is a good Instagram strategy? Yeah, I don't think photographers are that niche often. First of all, I think you need to separate what photographers have on Instagram compared to what they actually do, right? So some people are just sharing photos that they took in cool places, but that's not what they do for a living. They don't get paid to do that. So they're just sometimes shooting cookie cutter photos that other people did. There's a lot of people that like travel photography. Listen, I shoot for the New York Times. That's the biggest travel newspaper in the world, right? They pay $350 a day. So you're not making money off of travel photography, really. Most people aren't. YouTubers are making money off of YouTube and taking travel pictures, but they're not making money off of the travel photography. So be careful not to confuse those two things. And I think a lot of them don't want to let you believe that. And they also, you'll see these videos like, I make $10,000 a month off of travel photography. BS. Very rarely does anyone make any money off of travel photography. Just doesn't pay well. I do it as like one 50th of my work, and I do it at a pretty high level. And so I made, I got by early on in my career because I lived in Vietnam doing travel photography, and I could. So that's one thing. I also think people like to put the work out there that makes them look the coolest. You know what I mean? Like, so Microsoft pays you maybe 3 grand for a shoot, and you're taking pictures of someone on a tablet or at their office, and it's like not a sexy picture, so no one wants to say that. But that's probably where they made their money: corporate photography or events or whatever. But they don't like to show that. They want to show the cool part of their lives. Luckily for me, like, I show a bit of everything because I use my Instagram. I used to use my Instagram to get hired to do commercial work. Now I use it to sort of, show my work, but really to talk about, photography education, and bring people to my YouTube channel so you can learn about photography. So yeah, I think a good Instagram strategy is a lot different now than what it used to be when I was starting off. It used to be just show your work and display who you are as a photographer. Now I think it use it as part of your ecosystem. I had this guy from Ogilvy really help me out with my ecosystem as a photographer, teaching photography, having a commercial business. My hands all over the place today. And I should like sit like this so the light hits me more evenly. What if I turn my light off today? That's just too dark. I'm trying to get not so dramatic light. I didn't light myself. What a bad photographer I am. I didn't light myself before I did this. This was, again, very impromptu. So what I was telling you was, so this Ogilvy guy was like a social media strategist, and he's like, think about all your accounts and how they work. So use, your Instagram account. It's smaller. People are going to go there just to see like micro content, quick content. So use that to send people to your website. That might be a strategy to see your work, to hire you. For me, it's tease my YouTube videos on Instagram, so then people go to YouTube for the long form stuff. Or, sometimes it's show images that are from a cause I'm interested in, helping rhinos, and then send them to the Helping Rhinos donation page. Or send them to a longer documentary I might have, and then that, so it's, where does it all fit in? And then create your content based on that strategy. And again, that's changing constantly. So think about what you're doing. It maybe for you, it's, if you're a professional photographer, want to get work as a photographer, maybe it's BTS if you want to shoot and then go to your website to see the results, or to hire me, here's what you do. So, think about your whole ecosystem and how everything fits into that and how to use it. I hope that's helpful. Keep the questions coming, guys, or else I'm just gonna fizzle out. I'm gonna do a video next. I'd love to hear from you guys. What topics you want me to talk about on my YouTube channel besides gear reviews? I am thinking about going into some travel stuff. Like, I like travel bags and travel gear and things like that, but that's just a small part of it. As far as photography advice, what like the core of my channel is, um, let me know. I'd love to know what you guys want to see on there. Again, I updated my blog, updated my AskMOTT.com website. That inspired me to do this today. I was also just in the mood to answer questions. I just had a monthly mentorship student that is supposed to start the other day, but he's going to start in a couple days after this. So I was ready. I was online. I was ready to answer questions. But anyway, check out AskMOTT.com for my workshops, for my online classes, portfolio reviews, and just tips in general. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter. More questions coming in. Danny, I need to interview you, man, for this. I mean, Danny here is a crime scene investigator, and he does photography at these crime scenes. I definitely want to interview Danny about his job. That's another thing I want my podcast / YouTube interview series to be about, is like these, the most odd and interesting jobs in photography. Everyone knows the assignment photography, travel photography, portrait photography, studio photography, but they don't know a crime scene photographer. And there's some people doing some very interesting things. And Danny's seen a lot of crazy things, so maybe Danny will let me interview him one day for my channel. My pleasure, JW, for answering your question. I mean, my pleasure. Thank you for your question. I'm a little bit hopped up on coffee today. I have to admit that. Let me see. Let's make sure I didn't miss any questions. Keep the questions coming, guys, or else the more you don't ask me questions, the more I just promote my stuff. AskMOTT.com. Oh, I don't think so, Armando. He said, didn't cell phone cameras replace crime scene photographers? I don't know. Danny, you can chime in here. I know Danny works full time. I don't know if he wants me to say where he works, so I won't disclose that information. But Danny works as a crime scene photographer, and he uses doesn't use a cell phone. He uses some professional stuff. But Danny can come in for that. Yeah, you guys, another thing, just in this, besides your photography questions, don't be shy. I know people get shy asking questions on here. There's no stupid questions. I've been doing this for a long time. I've heard everything. So I also would just love to hear what you guys have to say. I mean, this is my connection with the members. I like to talk to you guys. I get to know you guys. Some of you I get to meet in person. I love that. Some of you online in my classes. Whether it's just an hour session or multi sessions, helping you with your project. But I love to hear what you guys want to know about what kind of content, what ideas you guys have. Maybe I'm missing things. Maybe you think something's interesting about being a professional photographer that I don't. My wife's always telling me, like, oh, you should break down your images more, your photo stories, your assignments more, and talk about that. And it's like, all right, I have to go back through all my old assignments and dig it up and remember what the story is and remember kind of some advice on there. I like doing it. They don't get as much traction, but if you're interested in that, I'll do more. Okay. What's your favorite bag right now, Linda? Oh, you want me to talk bags? We're looking at another hour here. What's your favorite bag right now, and how hard? And I know that's a hard question. You can't see over there, but I've got my whole wall filled with Wodencraft bags. Wodencraft's my bags, like that's who I go with. But okay, I've got a couple cool little new ones. So, as if anyone likes a roller bag out there, I started using Shimoda. I'll put a little link right here. I'll put a link to my little. You know what? I'm gonna do self promotion. I'm gonna put a link to my gear. I have a whole gear page that I made of all my favorite gear. I'm gonna put that up right now. That I'm gonna put that right in the comment section here, guys. But don't worry, Linda. I'm gonna say it. So this is my favorite gear, and I think I've got the Shimoda link on there as well. So my I used to use Think Tank bags. I was a Think Tank pro for a long time, but they didn't like that I was also a Wodencraft guy. So long story short, and give you the insight of an ambassador photographer, they just dropped me one day, and I was kind of bummed because I know one of the guys from Think Tank, and he's a friend, and it was just kind of a weird little email like, "Hey, we're not going to use you anymore." I'm like, "Oh well, I've been transparent about working with Wodencraft." They were the first. I'm a loyal person. Like Wodencraft's not as big as Think Tank, but Wodencraft was the first company that worked with me in ambassadorship, and for me, that was pretty cool as a photographer because we don't get any attention and we like attention. So they offered me a bunch of free bags because I used their bags. I was already into their bags. So anyway, once Think Tank was, started doing more lifestyle type bags and going into that category, they didn't like that I also had my affiliation. Wolecraft, fine, no hard feelings, maybe small hard feelings. So I started looking at other roller bags. I've used Think Tank for roller bags for all my commercial work, but even sometimes on editorial assignments, I might want to have a roller bag that I can work out of if I'm in like a contained area. I like to work out of a bag. And I found this bag by a company called Shimoda. They're getting big. I've been talking to the guys a little bit there, and well, the guy there, and they're nice people. But more importantly, the bags are cool. They make this roller bag called the carry-on bag. I forget what's V2 carry-on bag. You can just use it as a regular roller bag for your luggage, which I also like. No, not typically roller camera bags are just roller camera bags, and that's it. I don't have the bag on me. My team's using it on a shoot right now in Malaysia. They've sort of commandeered my bag, so I need to buy another one for my personal editorial work when I go on shoots alone. Because anyway, the bag opens up like a doctor style bag, so it's not flapping open, which means people aren't picking it up by accident when it's not zipped. And it just opens nicely. It's built ruggedly. It's awesome. It's one of the coolest roller bags I've ever seen. So Shimoda roller bag. You can check out the link in the comment section. My favorite everyday bag now. For photography, Wodencraft came out with this whole heritage series. Fine, I'll get a couple. But Wodencraft, I'm about to review these, so I'll give you guys a little insight. This is a Wodencraft Heritage Series backpack. They also make this like little tote bag that also has like camera inserts in them, but just nice style here. It's sort of like their Pilot series is really lightweight. This is sort of like more their stylish series with the leather accents. I'm trying to get away from leather. Keeps finding me, but metal. It's still lightweight, still nice. I haven't fully used it yet. I've just used it a couple times, but I dig their bags. That series is kind of cool. So, Dennis said no way. Anyway, that's kind of my go-to bag right now. And then I also just for travel, I have this like cool black ember tote bag in orange that I like. I've talked about a little bit. You can check them out, blackember.com. I don't think they make the orange one anymore. It's special edition. Picked up in Hong Kong. Love it. Not to do anything to do with camera bags. It's just a bag I take when I travel. Chris asked a question. How are you backing up your work to keep it safe? Oh my God, that's its own. Seeing so many folks in California. Yeah, Chris, that's a great question and a very timely question. How are you backing up your work and keeping it safe? I see so many folks in California escaping fires only with photo albums in hand. Very heartbreaking. Yeah, I mean, my thing, I'm going to do a whole episode about that. It's so important, and the fires are a good reminder of that. And like, just God bless the people there. It's terrible what's happening in the United States. Sorry, my bags are falling. I have a 3 approach system. I'll go into it deeper in another episode, but my system is on location. I always back up to 2 different hard drives, 2 separate times. I never copy from one hard drive to another so that there's no mistake that if I copy to one hard drive, that's just going to happen to the other. So memory card to one hard drive, remove that hard drive. You don't have to remove it, but then copy directly memory card again to another hard drive. All my selects, all my best stuff is in the cloud somewhere. So always in 3 locations. And the physical drive's always in 2 locations. So it's not easy for everyone to do. At the very least, I would say have your drives in one location, have your best RAWs somewhere online. So if you go out and do the shoot and 20 images were your favorite from something personal or a professional shoot, 50 were your favorite, whatever it is, take the RAWs of those favorites, put those somewhere in Dropbox or whatever, Google Cloud, whatever cloud system you're using, iCloud, somewhere, and just organize it. That's the other thing. Organize it so you can find it. AI is getting great at like keywording and finding all your images. So just have a system, have a workflow. Everyone's is different, but at a minimum, 2 separate physical locations and total 3 locations, I would say. Do you reuse your memory cards or new card for a shoot? I don't know if this person's joking with me because I met a guy, it was really funny. So I talk very open on these things. No one's watching me, so I don't care. So I met this guy at a Leica press thing when the SL3 came out, and he was the guy from Red Dot Camera Forum, and he put new memory cards in every time he used. So is this like something people do? I didn't know it. He was opening up memory cards, like, oh, what? You just buy those for this trip? And he's like, no, every time I do a shoot, I put new memory cards in. And that just blew my mind. I've never seen anyone do that before. So yeah, man, I reuse my memory cards all the time. Like even on like shoots that are like tens of thousands of dollars or bigger shoots. I don't want to talk money, but we have big shoots sometimes with a lot of stake. I shoot on multiple cards. So raw with 2 card slots. On my professional Sony's A7 R5 and A7 R4, I shoot RAW on 2 cards, or I might shoot, depends on memory and what we're shooting, maybe RAW and the JPEG on the other. But yeah, I have 2 cards flowing at once, but I don't use new memory cards for every shoot. I find that I know memory's cheap and I get why people might do it, but it just seems ridiculous to me. But people do it. The guy from Red Dot Forums used to do it. I think it's ridiculous. And I do like some of the shoots. I can't mention all my clients because I signed NDAs, but some of the shoots I do are pretty damn expensive. And even that, I don't know. It never crossed my mind. Knock on wood, never had an issue. So I don't know. But yeah, I don't. I use new memory cards all the time. Oh, Linda, you love a Shimoda. They make backpacks. They've got I'm interested in the other stuff, but I think it's a weird crossover with Shimoda. I think I'd like to work with them, but I need to be transparent with those guys and say I have an honest relationship. I have an existing relationship with Wotcraft. I don't want to run into. I was transparent last time, but they got mad at me. So not them, Think Tank. So we'll see. Yeah, Chris. People do it, man. People do that with memory cards. I thought it was like the oddest thing when I saw someone do it, but this person asked me this as well, so maybe it's not so crazy. No, that's fair. No, totally fair. I think it's probably smarter your way. I just never thought of it that way. I never really did. I mean, memory cards can fail. What I would say is I use really good memory cards, good expensive ones. So I don't know. I doesn't that get expensive? Especially some of the shoots I do when I'm doing like 128 gigs a day. It might not be filling that in a day, but yeah, sometimes I do fill that in a day. That's an interesting thing. Maybe I'm going to put that question out there and see how many people respond. Maybe I'll do a little poll on my Instagram. How many of you use memory cards, fresh memory cards for every shoot? If it's more than 1%, I would be baffled. But again, 2 people in about a year that have told me this, so you never know. Space Shuttle asked me, any recommended movie or documentary about photographers? Yeah, I mean, the best ever, I think, is War Photographer. James Nachtwey, documentary about his life. I'm a big fan of James Nachtwey. If you don't know his work, Google him. James Nachtwey, best conflict photographer, one of the best photographers, I think, ever. His books, his work is some of the most depressing work I've ever seen. His website, I wish was cool, more modern. It's not really great, but his work doesn't need a good website like the rest of us. His work tells a story on its own. It's powerful on its own, but it's a great sort of insight into that life of a conflict photographer. And I don't think it gets much better than him. And I don't think there's anyone really out there more graceful than him. So War Photographer about James Lockwood. Can't recommend it enough. Yeah, no, fair enough. Like I always say when it comes to, we're still talking about the memory card thing. I think for people, like anything, whatever you can build to the client. If anyone on here is professional photographer, built to the client. I mean, I built for hard drives. I built for storage. I don't with my clients. I should put this out there. I never guarantee for my clients commercial work. Definitely not editorial work. They don't pay enough. But even commercial work, I don't build it into your contract that you don't back up your images, that they do, and that's on them. I still do. Don't tell them, but I still do because it just happens. People lose stuff, but I don't put that responsibility on me. I don't want that responsibility. They don't pay you for that. So everything that I do for my commercial work is billable. So travel days, travel costs, everything. I mean, it's BS or not. Right now, we're well, I won't say right now, but recently we're on a shoot, and some people like will argue. We're at a hotel for a couple weeks, and they'll argue with us over laundry. I'm like, well, where else we're going to do laundry? We're not bringing 2 weeks worth of clothes. We got to change. Or we're shooting a resort, and it's so these things, they think we're being difficult at first, but I stick by them. I support my team. I stick up for my team. We stay at the hotels we shoot. We're not, drinking champagne, eating lobster, but we got to eat our meals there. Where else are we going to go? And we got to stay at the hotel because it's convenient. Unless it's like some, private island resort. But even that we've stayed at. But, and they're going to sell that room for 5 grand and instead they give it to us. I get that. But I mean, I built for everything. I treat my team well and we treat our clients well, especially the ones that treat us well. Any workshop in the US for 2025? Armando, what I am thinking about doing, I started this thing on my website for workshops where people can book me for private workshops. It's expensive. I mean, I do have some high profile kind of clients and VIP clients that can afford it. I realize not everyone can, but people that want to can book me to do a 1 day, 7 day workshop ahead of time. You pay for my expenses, you pay for my time. But it's a really, we can meet anywhere in the world. So I can come to the US, I can meet you somewhere else, or you can come here in Vietnam. But I do these private scheduled workshops for one person or even small groups. I've had father and son do it. I've had a small family do it. And yeah, wherever I could join you on vacation, and you can have all of us wearing my funny hats and hanging out. No, I do offer custom packages, so people just let me know where, as far as where and when, and my team puts together a package for you, all inclusive. As far as a workshop, a scheduled workshop in the U.S., I keep thinking like I'd like to do this and that with Leica, but nothing gets done unless I organize it myself, really. And I like the way that I do it myself. I've done a couple workshops with Leica, but I don't have a great, I don't know, I just don't know a lot of the Leica US people. So hard to schedule my time. I'm going back a couple times a year. I like to go to Boston typically, or San Francisco. So if I can arrange something in San Francisco or Boston, maybe. But really, when I go home these days, I go home to see my mom. She's getting older, and we're all getting older technically, but she's getting older. So I like to go to Rhode Island, see my mom, and spend more time with her. So when I'm back in the US scheduled, I usually spend most of my time with her. Maybe there's something I could do in Rhode Island or Block Island. I don't know. We'll see. All questions are coming in. What's your thoughts on the M11D? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's I was like one of the early photographers on the M10D, and I see a lot of people use it, but it's not meant for everyone. I'm not saying that like cocky, like I can use it, you can't. But the M10D was good for me at that point in my career doing that kind of work. Like if I'm going to do my story about my kindergartens project or my long form documentary, where I'm going to spend not just like a day or two with someone, like weeks with somebody, or at least a full week with somebody. The M10D is perfect for me in that situation because I'm really slowing down. I can really think a lot. It's just a very minimalistic process for me. So it works well for me, and it can work well for other people that aren't photographing rhinos too. I get it, but it's a hard camera to use for some people. It really is, and I I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I still enjoy it. I have an M10D. I won't upgrade to an M11D just because, like, my pictures from the M10D were sold in an exhibition at a gallery in New York, fine art photography, like giant prints, and they look great on the M10D. And so I don't see the need for an M11. I think if you could find a used M10 and D and I know the built-in storage and some extra things. Like I get it. If you get the money, then always screw it, go for it. But I don't know. I think it's for some people, but I think it's not for as many people as people think it's for. If that makes sense. It's really for someone that can truly slow down and do like a project. And that doesn't mean just a pro. An amateur can do that as well. But It's more about putting in the pro mindset of spending a lot of time with your subject and slowing down, because there is, a learning curve with that camera. You can make some mistakes, but I just enjoy it. Like for me, every day shooting photographing those rhinos, and then going back at lunchtime and like not knowing what I had. I love that excitement, but I don't love it so much for film as much. So like I like to look at it kind of instant, but not extremely instant. So it's like it's a weird hybrid thing. So for me, it's awesome. For most people, maybe not. For some, definitely. You just have to ask yourself good questions. This is Jerry. I love any questions about my Docker hats. You know what? Of all the affiliations, this is the one I should have a relationship with. This is a company called Baton Sari. I can show you right now. I have a collection. I'm a little bit overdone here with these. That's all the used ones. You can see some of them get sweaty. So my first ever one is this old one here I bought in Japan. And then I'll answer your question. This one is still my favorite. This is like beat up. The dog ate the front of it. But this is my favorite one. I found this in Japan a long time ago, and I was like, oh, it's perfect for photographers. No brim in front. Yes, I'm not trying to hide that I'm thinning. I have very thinning hair, bald spot in the back. I'm okay with that. I'm telling you guys here, but it protects my head from the sun. The only downside is, I should probably answer your question too. Uh, is yes, the fabric is hard. So this fabric denim is hard in Vietnam. And right now I'm in the north of Vietnam. So I can wear my Docker hats in my AC room for my videos from all year. As far as going outside with these hats, forget it. From anywhere between April and let's say September, no, not a chance. I got to wear like a regular hat and cover my head for sunburn and all that stuff. And my family has history of skin cancer and all that stuff. So I have to be like very careful. I just love these for, like, again, I bought it when I was in Japan. I fell in love with them. I got a whole collection of them. Baton Sari is the company I like a lot. They make these really solid ones, but they don't make a thin one. They do make a linen one. I've never tried it. There's mesh ones. I just don't like the look of the mesh ones. The random one that I had in Japan that is the thinnest I've had of all of them, and it's called the Common Tempo. It's such a boutique little shop. This is the thinnest. I can wear this sometimes in hot weather, but yeah, you're gonna get that gross salt stain. It's gonna sweat. It's just creating like this whole heat ring. And I run hot, man. I run really hot. So not great for Vietnam, but in the north of Vietnam, at least we have from, let's say, October till March, I can wear it. I know I should totally make a Docker cap. I would love to. I've been talking to the guy at Baton Sari about some sort of sponsorship. He's like, man, it's just me. I have this. I'm like, but you know how many hats I've sold you? I meet people all around the world. People aren't asking me questions about photography. They are, but the thing people ask me the most about is this damn hat. And I don't know, man. He's like, well, I could. He's nice, but he's small, and he can't really. He can offer some sort of code, but I think you're right. I should just make my own, and instead, if he doesn't want to work with me, I'll compete with him. I think, and I live in Vietnam, and they make these things, so maybe I will make my own Docker hat. I've actually thought about this, but never really acted on it. Oh, let's see. Other questions here. Do, 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 do. So, oh, sorry, Jerry. To fully answer your question, if you can find a linen one, that's going to be your best bet for Vietnam. Balancing style and warmth, I guess. Mesh, if you like the look of mesh, which I don't. Hope to see you soon. We met at the SL3 launch in Singapore. Yeah, I hope so too. Talk to Leica Singapore. Tell me you want me back there. I'd love to get back there. I'm thinking pretty soon. I don't know this. Leica's kind of. I think since I've talked about Fuji a little bit, Leica has kept me out of the loop, which is also okay. Like I had to make a decision a while back about like, hey, I don't want to be too attached to a brand. Like I like Leica. I'll do workshops with them. I enjoy the people there, but getting pre-release stuff, getting invited to these things, I don't want that to come with any stipulation that I have to review things, that I have to say nice things. You guys are my long-term relationship, not them. I mean, really, I want to just be honest. That's what my channel is about, transparency. So when I started using the Fuji, it's not because I didn't like Leica. It's because I wanted to try it out and I liked it. And I'm a journalist, man. And so people can't censor me. I don't know. Maybe they don't like it. Maybe they do, but they definitely don't. But they haven't said anything to me, but I haven't been invited to anything. I don't necessarily find out any more about, like, I think there's an SL3S coming out very soon. They're just quietly not sending me stuff to review, and that's okay. At the end of the day, like, this is my priority is genuineness and being raw with you guys about what I like and what I use and why. So, I got invited to a couple events there, and I saw that world of YouTubers and how they just have to like listen to how, what they tell you to sell and why and what, but no one questions certain things. And I'm like, well, that's bullshit to your audience. Like, be honest. So anyway, that's a whole other episode, maybe for another time. Uh, okay, so no problem, Jerry. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Black Paint. I like that. You're one of the most genuinely good people I know. Thank you as always for your open. My pleasure, man. I appreciate that. One of the best things I can get on my channel is people saying they appreciate my honest feedback and they appreciate how genuine I am about the stuff that I review and my advice that I give to people. I know when I do episodes about soulless street photography, if you go back and watch that episode, oh my God, read the comment section. So many people were happy with it, but there's so many people like, you're a gatekeeper. I'm like, I'm not, man. I'm not telling people what to do. It's funny when people tell you what to do and their statement is you shouldn't tell people what to do, and then they tell you what to do. But I know some of my episodes people might take the wrong way, but like I'm never mean spirited or mean hearted. And my advice about gear and about photography in general and how to get better is just to make you better. I'm not mad. I run hot in temperature. I run nice in attitude. Okay. JW asked, like a call and asked you to build a perfect camera for street photography. What would you build? Oh man, I don't know. Good. You know what? That's a great question. Oh, and I like Armando's comment. I'm going to comment on that. My brothers tease me about that. What would I do? Well, a perfect street photography camera for me would probably be if it could. Oh, like if they made something along this line, like in this, it's more of a price thing. I think if they could come in at like $3,000 for a built-in fixed lens camera that's not as big as the Q, like it's more compressed. But I understand that having a nicer lens, so I don't know, man. It's too many things. Like I think the built-in storage thing is nice. I think maybe I'll do a whole episode on this. I need to give that some deep thought before I just blurt out stuff like I normally do. A fixed 35, but not like more something like form factor like this would be kind of cool, or even smaller. Um, built like I like the little flip out screen thing. I never thought I liked that, but now I kind of do. I don't know. I have to give that some thought. I'm pretty happy with my M10D for street photography. I'm pretty happy with the X106 for street photography as well. But I just like the feel of the Leica better. You have a subconscious. You want to be a sailor with hence those hats. Good night, Armando. Yeah. Maybe I do, man. Maybe I do. I think I'm like I belong on some sort of ship somewhere. You know why they originally made these hats, by the way? They were for sailors so that they could go outside and the hats wouldn't blow off in the wind. Kind of interesting backstory about the Docker hat or Mickey hat. What projects you have coming this year? Good question. Well, something exciting. If you see on my YouTube channel, I released the trailer for my documentary called Wander Alone. It's a story about isolation, about extinction, about the last two northern white rhinos left in the world. It's a very different approach to this. I haven't released the full it's a short documentary, but the full length short documentary is 9 minutes long, and we're pitching it to film festivals, and then we'll have to go to publications after that. So a lot of those festivals don't want it to have premiered on YouTube or anywhere. I want to share with you guys so bad. I'm so proud, so excited. This is years in the making to do something like this, and I'm really proud of what we made here. You can check out the trailer on my Instagram. You can check out the trailer on my YouTube page, wherever you want. But that will be out. When it's out, I will share it with you guys, members first, and then I'll share it out to the entire YouTube world and to my audience. So, but again, we have to wait and see. Fingers crossed about festivals. If anyone have any leads about festivals or things like that, let us know. But we're submitting to a bunch of festivals. Myself and a buddy of mine who helped edit it, put it all together. So yeah, we're working on that. That's my big project. As far as photography projects, I am really, really strongly saying, I say this every year, but work keeps getting in the way, which is a good thing. But I really want to put out a book about Vietnam. I mean, I've been shooting this country, photographing this country for 20 years. I've got a ton of images. I just need to put in the work. It's a lot of work, and publishing a book is, you can get a publisher, but the money's not great. I wouldn't do it for the money. You're not going to make money off of these kind of things these days, but I really want to do it right. So that's coming. I keep saying it. I like to take you guys along for the ride with me, but I haven't really fully been motivated. Finish the construction of my house, and work keeps getting in the way. And other things. But yeah, I mean nothing major, but it's just like I really want to do it. So well, good night, Armando. Let's see what projects. Thank you for that question. Yeah, like I agree. Like a Q3 35 with like a pancake lens, like that size, it would be kind of cool. See another person. What's the name of your hat? I remember seeing it on a video, but forgot to ask. Baton Cerie, New Era makes the same hats as well. They make a similar version. I showed you guys before. This is the company here, Baton Cerie. They're expensive, man. These hats are expensive, but it's like a one-man operation. New Era makes the same ones. That's more like a U.S. brand, more accessible. Um, I have a problem, like I showed you guys before. So New Era or Baton Cerie, tell them Justin sent you. If you use them, I want that guy to know I'm selling his hats, man. If not, if he's not gonna hook me up, I'm gonna start making my own. No, kid, he's been very nice. Oh my, you really want to keep? I was about to go. Who's the best photographer? Why is it Steve McCurry? Don't. Are you trying to bait me here? I was gonna leave after about an hour, and that's only 5 minutes away. Steve McCurry is not the best photographer ever, not even close. I mean, I don't want to get into that. I've done a whole episode kind of about that. I don't like to knock people too publicly, but just he set up all of his travel shots that were supposed to be documentary, and people just kind of forgot about it. And Nat Geo looked the other way, and people looked the other way, and he just changed his name to a storyteller instead of a documentary photographer. So all of his stuff, Photoshop. Like he cloned stuff out. That's like the biggest no-no, something they teach you in photography 101 for journalism. And National Geographic is considered a journalistic magazine, or at least it was. And he's, I don't know how that didn't ruin their reputation, his reputation, but it's BS and it sets a bad precedent for a lot of other photographers out there. And now with AI, it's a whole different thing. So I think he has a natural style for composition in post-production. He moves things and manipulates things. He's paid for people to come. He shoots travel photography like someone would do commercial work. So if you want to judge his work, I would say you judge it as a commercial photographer. Can a commercial photographer do that? He just makes it look like real. And that's its own thing, fine. You can debate that. And he has a good eye for composition, light, sure, but his stuff's fake and he presented as real, and that's dishonest. And I don't appreciate it. So that's it. I don't appreciate what it does for the industry. So no, not Steve McCurry. James Nachtwey, because he would never do that. And if he did, then I'd be really disappointed. I've also heard really bad things about working with him. People that have worked with him have had crossover and bad experiences with him too. Yeah, separate reel for just my hats. Maybe I don't know, man. Maybe I will. What are some good music bands we can check out while editing at coffee shop nowadays? Wow, music recommendations. Maybe I'll share that on Spotify. I don't know. I'm not. I'm terrible at remembering the music I like. Right now, I'm really into. Let me pull up my playlist right now on Spotify. I've been really into. I was in Japan recently, Tokyo. I went to a record shop, and I have a record player. I know, cheesy hipster, cliche photographer, but let me see here. I've been really digging. I like beats sometimes. So like, what's the album Donuts by Jay Dilla? If you like hip hop beats, kind of like if you want something a little more upbeat. I like Cigarettes After Sex. I just listened to that album when I was at that coffee in that record store, and I really liked it. And I just started getting into their music for chill music. I like a lot of like I'm old. I like a lot of '90s like chill sort of alternative rock, chill like bands like Dada, the Posies, the Garden State album. I like a lot of weird stuff. I also like hip hop. I've got a whole bunch of different stuff that I listen to. I change my style of music all the time. One of my favorite bands to listen to when I want to sleep or edit is Iron and Wine. Love Iron and Wine. That would be my number one recommendation. Throw on an Iron and Wine album and enjoy yourself. Dan asked me what brought me today, Dan. What brought me to Vietnam? Oh, that's another long story. I only got a few minutes left here. I'm going to keep this under an hour. But I came here to start a career as a photographer, and I never left. I was inspired. I came here for the adventure, and I stayed for because everywhere I turned, there was pictures to be had, and I was just curious. And if you can find something you're curious about photographing, and you're still curious about it 20 years later, you found the right place. So that's what brought me here, and that's what kind of made me stay. It's a deeper. I did a whole episode about what brought me to Vietnam. If you kind of go through my Google, I won't pull it up right now because it might just take some time. But I kind of explained it well there, and it's a deeper. If you really care, that's kind of the gist of it. What brought me, why I stayed, and why I love Vietnam. Oh, Amanda, I thought you were going to bed, man. All right, you're up. So Micro Four Thirds for street photography. I use my pen F when I'm not like big and like you have to use this kind of camera, this sensor for whatever works for you. I think whatever camera you're likely to take out of the house and carry around you without that stress, whatever that means to you, fine. Like sometimes, Vietnam's very safe, so I don't mind taking my M10D anywhere. Some countries, some places, I don't want to go out with what 9,000. Well, back then it was $9,000 camera and a $5,000 lens. I don't want to lose any camera, but I don't feel as bad about $1,000 camera. So or a little Ricoh or the Fuji, which is like 1,500 or $2,000, depending on what you buy it. So, what up? That's it, guys. I'm gonna end right here. Thank you, guys. Okay, no, that's it. That's all. I appreciate you guys coming in today. Don't forget to check out AskMott.com if you've enjoyed this. If I answered your question, give me a thumbs up. Like this little episode. But subscribe to my newsletter. It's at AskMott.com. Scroll down to the bottom. Hit subscribe. 1 to 2 newsletters a month. And it's good stuff. Photography tips, discounts on my workshops, private classes, all that kind of stuff. Everything's at AskMott.com. Check that out. Bookmark it, and go there. I'm updating it all the time, guys. And I just did a huge update. There's going to be some little bugs in there right now that I'm working on, but that's what I'm doing this week. And that's why I needed a break to do this, because I am so bored at doing SEO stuff. I'm going to end with my normal saying. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourself, guys. Bye.